The UN, in a way, is like an old company, not entirely keeping up with the market, but occupying the space. And when it's behind times, in this world you have startups and innovation, so different people start doing their own things. Now, they would like to mainstream that into the market and see that the principal players are in tune with these trends. But when they are not, I think countries, as companies do, start doing their own thing. So what you have today is, yes, there is a UN. At the end of the day, however suboptimal it is in functioning, it's still the only multilateral game in town. But when it doesn't step up on key issues, countries figure out their own ways of doing it. So if you look, for example, let's take the last 5 or 10 years. Probably the biggest thing which happened in our lives was COVID. Now, think about what did the UN do on COVID, and I think the answer is not very much. Now, you have 2 conflicts going on in the world today, 2 very serious conflicts. Where is the UN on them? Essentially a bystander. So what is happening is that, as you saw even during COVID, countries either did their own thing, or you had an initiative like COVAX, which was done by a group of countries. When it comes to the big issues of the day, I think increasingly you find combinations of countries who come together and say, let's agree on this and let's go and do it. So you have, let us say, connectivity, and you have something like IMEC. So you have India, Middle Eastern countries, European countries, US doing their thing. You have, say, in the Indo-Pacific, how do you, look after the global commons? So you have the Quad, which does its own thing. You had even in climate action, you had the International Solar Alliance. You have the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, all bodies which came from outside the UN framework. So I think today the UN will continue, but increasingly there's a non-UN space, which is the active space, and I think it's telling on the UN. But because you spoke about the UN, I do want to say we came out of something called the Summit of the Future. It produced a document called the Pact of the Future, and what that entire exercise revealed was really a great sense of frustration in large parts of the world, whether actually their problems are getting heard, recognized, and are there solutions in the making. I think there's a general sense, people know by sort of gut instinct that these are where the solutions lie, and which a large part of it is the MDB reform. But again, here's the reality. The reality is that in global politics there is, at the end of the day, limited bandwidth. There are 1 or 2 issues which suck up much of the oxygen. I think we've seen that now for 2.5 years in Ukraine and in the last year in the Middle East. So what is happening, when I met virtually all my G20 colleagues during the UNGA, and that kind of push which there should be, that kind of prioritization that there should be on MDB reform, I have to be honest, I didn't exactly get that sense. Instead, the focus, I think Middle East was the number 1 issue, Ukraine was the number 2 issue, even climate kind of dropped in the priority.